Susan Lenart Kazmer here with Ice Resin. Hey, everyone always asks me about making resin paper. This is so popular again and again. I'm finding through my workshops. So I just wanted to show you a real quick way on using tissue and creating resin paper so you get that great transparency in your work. Check it out. Okay, this is one of my very favorite techniques. Maybe all of them are, who knows? But I love working with tissues and making resin paper with the tissues. And then I want to show you a couple techniques on how I use it in my work. So this actually is the tissue paper, and these gorgeous, gorgeous pieces. This is what it becomes by putting ice resin right onto the tissue. And just here's some variations. This is with tints added with the tissue. They're all still transparent. And this is with one of the color sheets that is, really beautiful, beautiful in layers that becomes transparent. So here's the tissue book in the ice resin line. I love the different images. I brought pieces in from Bali, from France on my travels, and brought them into my work. So I'm going to show you how to make resin paper. But first off, this is one of the techniques that I'm going to show you, is just doing these wire forms and adding the resin paper to them. I have resin paper throughout this piece. This whole bracelet is made with all the different techniques using ice resin. And here's some resin paper right here too. This is just another technique. I actually have shown that a few times as well. So anyway, this is the way I use my pieces, and I'm going to show you the resin paper. So in taking a full sheet, I'm actually just going to cut off a very small one from here for this technique that I'm showing. Oh, let's see. I guess I'll get this corner right here. I'm going to cut off. But this is a second craft sheet that I put down. So I'm not going to get this, the studio sheet under. I'm not going to get that full of resin. This actually, I'll be able to paint my resin onto the tissue, and it can dry right onto the sheet, and I'll be able to pull it right up. So I'm going to take my pre-mixed ice resin, and I'm just going to pour it onto the surface, pour an amount right onto the surface, and I'm just going to keep this, if it drips or anything, it's still on my studio sheet. And I am going to use the squeegee, which keeps my hands from getting all full of resin. If your hands get full of resin, if you're doing this type of work, alcohol is the product that will remove the resin and get the stickiness off of you. Some people like to wear gloves. I usually don't wear gloves. I don't know why. I just don't, but you could. So this actually can sink right through. You're going to see this getting more and more transparent. Or you can flip this over, and I usually make sure this is worked down on the back side, and this just kind of helps to get the resin through to both sides. You want to make sure that you press the bubbles out with the squeegee. And boy, this is really, I used to use different products for this, but I really love this plastic. When this dries, the plastic will just pop right off. So, and the same here. My resin paper will just pop right off. Now, I want to use this piece right here, so I'm going to do a little bit of resin paper on this tiny piece, and you will see how I'm going to use it in just a minute. Let me flip it over, take a little bit of resin, get this nice and transparent. Thank you. I just used alcohol wipes, and this takes the resin right off my hands. And I actually did a piece like this that's not finished. I'm going to show you how I'm putting this together. This is a fabulous, oh my gosh. This is what I do in my studio all day long. I do hammered wires, and I draw a bead at the end of them. So this is dead soft wire. I'm going to show you. This is the open package. It's dead soft wire. I can bend this any way I wanted to. And it attaches really nicely. In my book that I wrote, Making Connections, I use this wire all over chapter 3. It's all about using metal kind of in a fiber technique, and it really helps to hold things in. So this is dead soft. I'm actually going to bring these around. You can do this with your hands or with the pliers, and I'm going to just make a little leaf form, or that's been the form that I really enjoy doing here. And I'm going to hold my end down really close, and I'm just going to do a little wrap right here. Another thing I can do is just take this end. I'll be able to show more details later on with this, but just kind of bring this out of the way and hold it closed. Now I've got a way to attach. And then I'm going to take my resin piece that I just made, and I am going, my resin paper, and I'm just going to lay this over my piece. There we go. I'm going to lay this right over. Let me do it this way. I wrinkled that side a little. Ice resin, you don't want these pieces to be too big. Ice resin will not, it's not sticky, so it's not going to, it won't really stick onto your metal. So I use gravity. So I laid my paper on the top, and then I lay it down and let it dry with gravity. I make sure that my paper is not sitting up here by the knot. And sometimes I leave space, sometimes I seal it up. And this way, it's all going to adhere to the metal that I have here. And this is a piece I finished with tissue. You can see how gorgeously transparent the tissue became. And with this piece, when it's dry, this is how it is dry. You can see the seal on here. It's sealed all the way around with enough resin. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take my ends, and I'm going to get in here, and I'm going to trim my paper. I'll do it this way. Just take off the excess, and you're going to have a gorgeous, beautiful, beautiful piece. Now, some people will use this as a bezel. You can actually pour more resin in there if you wanted to, or just keep it in this way. And then I'm going to just kind of bring this around. And I have a beautiful component. You guys saw that in my work. So I'm actually going to take the resin out of the way, and my resin paper, and you guys can see this is actually my pieces that I built. It's going to look perfectly on this piece. It would fit right in. Okay, well, this is just a pretty simple technique on making resin paper using tissue paper, using these metal wires in the work. That's part of the ice resin line. So click the links below if you're interested in any of these products that I showed you.